The Suikoden series is one of my favorite of all time, and Suikoden 2 sits on the top of the pile. Suikoden isn't just about recruiting 108 characters, it's about war, politics, fractured nations, and ordinary people who get pulled into conflict. So, to get started, we're going to take a look at another beloved series that does all of these things very well. Many people say that the only other series that has the same sort of massive world building as Suikoden is Falcom's Trails series, and the best place to start is at the beginning with Trails in the Sky. But recently, it's become even better to jump in because they're remaking Trails in the Sky fully in 3D, and they did an incredible job. And the name of that remake is Trails in the Sky First Chapter. Someone tell Konami to do the same thing with Suikoden, please. Thanks. Trails does something similar to Suikoden in the way that they introduce characters, the difference being that you don't actually recruit those characters, but they do appear throughout the story, sometimes in ways that you don't expect. Trails is all about taking your time, getting to know the world, talking to every NPC, and really immersing yourself into it. If what you love about Suikoden is all of the different kinds of characters, the backdrop of political maneuvering that sometimes leads to military intervention, Trails in the Sky First Chapter is the perfect game for you. You can play Trails in the Sky First Chapter on Nintendo Switch, PS5, and PC. Or you can play the original on PC and PSP. Arc the Lad has a couple of really good games, and the one that Suikoden fans should check out first is Arc the Lad Twilight of the Spirits. There are a lot of good parallels here. If you ever wanted to actually play Joey's side of the story in Suikoden 2, Twilight of the Spirit actually lets you do that. Karg and Dark are on the opposite ends of a conflict, and the story swaps back and forth between those two for the majority of the game. It creates this really interesting dynamic where you're seeing what things are like from each side, why they're doing what they're doing, and you really sympathize with both of them and what they're going through. This is a very underrated game that I don't think enough people know about. For Suikoden fans, I would highly recommend that you check it out. And if you're into tactical RPGs, also check out Arc the Lad 2. It has quite a few parallels with Suikoden as well. Maybe the best game in the Arc the Lad series, but I would definitely recommend Arc the Lad Twilight of the Spirits for this. And it's only available on PS2 or through backwards compatibility. I think on the PS4, not sure about the PS5. The Last Remnant is a weird game that I think is actually worth playing for fans of Suikoden. It takes some similar ideas to what you find in Suikoden. For example, instead of true runes, you have what is called the Remnants. These are massively powerful artifacts and super weapons that are only usable by certain people. You recruit a large roster of different people into your group with over 100 leaders and around 200 generic soldiers, many of which are missable. And in order to recruit those, you'll need to pay attention and do optional content. The Last Remnant has a really unique squad-based combat, which can be a bit chaotic to get into at first, but is a lot of fun once you figure it out. The Last Remnant in general is a game with a ton of optional stuff to do, so for those of you that really want to dig into a game that has a lot of lore and a lot of stuff to find, The Last Remnant may be exactly what you're looking for. The Last Remnant released originally on Xbox 360. You can play it on the PS4, Switch, mobile, and on PC, though the PC version was delisted from every platform for some reason, so that's a bit more difficult to get. And for another series that doesn't get enough love, definitely check out Growlanser. And to start with, Growlanser 2. This is a series that digs into similar themes to Suikoden, putting you into this sort of military squad that takes care of problems that the regular grunts can't. Growlanser is known for having a surprising amount of choices for a JRPG that affect the endings that you eventually get. In Growlanser 2, that's mostly to do with the female character that the main character ends up with. It also has this interesting combat that is sort of like real-time with pause combat from CRPGs. Growlanser 2 does a good job of throwing you into this conflict and making you care about the characters around you. And if you really like that idea of different endings and branching paths, Growlanser 4 goes kind of crazy with that, going with 3 different main branches that the game could go into, epilogues for all the characters that depend on the choices that you make. It's a really good time. You can play Growlanser 2 on PS2 and Growlanser 4 on PSP. Now, if you want the same sort of themes as a lot of Suikoden, but with a time traveling element, you should check out Radiant Historia. Radiant Historia isn't similar through mechanics, but instead through the overarching themes of the world. In Radiant Historia, you have to navigate through a political landscape that is pulling itself apart, dealing with a lot of gray areas and characters you oppose that have motivations that make sense and you can sympathize with. One of the things that makes Radiant Historia interesting is in the White Chronicle. This is a magical book that allows you to travel to our alternate timelines and make changes in order to save the world and the people around you. Sort of like Chrono Trigger in that way. It also has an interesting combat system that uses a grid and manipulation of positioning your enemies. Some of your abilities can pull or push, and if you do it right, you can chain abilities into each other. Radiant Historia is a lot of fun, and I would recommend it to Suikoden 2 fans that want similar themes in a different style. You can play the remastered version of Radiant Historia called Perfect Chronology on Nintendo 3DS, or the original on DS. Shining Force 3 is such a cool game, and yet not that many people have played it. It really digs into a lot of the themes from Suikoden. It really pushes into that, the political factions, war, consequences of your action, seeing things from different sides. It released in 3 scenarios, each a full game, 2 of which never made it out of Japan, but thanks to fan translation, you can now play them. And over the course of these 3 scenarios, there are different actions that you can take that lead to all sorts of outcomes. Your save transfers over. You can miss out on recruiting characters. Some characters might die depending on what you do. And an action that you take in the first scenario might cause that to happen in scenario 2 or scenario 3. It also has a character relationship system that affects battles. Depending on how the fight plays out, who heals who, whether they fight next to each other, you can get better effects as they grow stronger together. The game is filled with all sorts of optional content, hidden characters, weapons, and other secrets, so it really rewards exploring each area before you head out. And Shining Force 3 is one of those games that really deserves a remaster or a remake, but right now you can only play it on the Sega Saturn. If you can try it out, definitely give it a shot. It also has like 50 recruitable characters, so Suikoden fans should feel right at home. And today's bonus games are an entire other video about games like Suikoden. I did one before, and there are no repeats here, so make sure to check that out. If you think I missed something, chances are high that I mentioned it in that video. I'll link it in the description. I'm a huge Suikoden fan, so I'm always on the lookout for more games like that. If you have any other games like Suikoden that you think people should check out, make sure to put it in the comments. It's a community effort. You might just help someone find their next favorite game, so put something in the comments. And for more game suggestions and videos about RPGs of all kinds, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.